All right, so we got a interesting video idea. I've been, I like basketball, but I kind of haven't been giving it too much attention with everything that's happening recently. Definitely can't wait for it to come back, of course. But this idea by Jimmy High Roller, um, can you solve the hardest problem in NBA history? Essentially, the operating premise of this video is: can you make the best number one overall pick possible, with the idea that so many have flopped in the past. And one key part of his video is that this stretch from 2005 to 2011, the by his own metric, I suppose, I don't think he used a score to deduce this. I'm guessing, but and this is what he said: each pick from 2005 to 2011, the number one pick was not the best player in his class. So I just had to go through that and try to see which one he could consider better, because from 2005 to 2007 it's evident, right? 2005, I think Chris Paul came out. 2007, I think Kevin Durant was number two. 2006, I don't quite remember who was the better pick in that class, but I don't know who that is. 2006, so I'm sure there's at least one person that's better. Um, but 2008 was where it starts getting dicey, and I would say in general, this is where like talent gets to a point where there's not really a clear distinction most years of who's the best. Like if you look at the rest of these years, I'm gonna go through all of them. AD in 2012, like okay, probably yeah, but but like Wiggins, that's not clear. Karl Anthony Towns, that's not clear. Ben Simmons, not clear. Fultz, that was like a toss up at the very last second. Zion, I would say is clear, but at the same time, it's like there was some really like good, talented prospects in that class, and you could make the argument that other guys were, I guess, equally as impactful as building blocks, um, and may even perform better in college. But Zion just has a sensationalism that's larger than metrics and stuff and such. DeAndre Ayton also not consensus either. But anyway, that's besides the point. I'm gonna go through these drafts trying to see who actually looks like who looks like a better prospect. Try to get into the mind of this creator and figure it out. So we'll start 2008. Derrick Rose coming out of Memphis, and off rip I had a problem with this one, because if you look at the rest of this, right, and it's just the first round. I feel like more often than not, it's probably not anybody coming to the second round is going to be really comparable. I mean, you look at this: Mario Chalmers already out the league, DeAndre Jordan about to be out the league. I mean, Joe Crawford, Richard Hendricks, Chris Douglas Roberts. The second round really isn't too important in the grand scheme of things. So going off of this one I had an immediate problem with, because you look down these lists, you see guys like JaVale McGee, J.J. Hickson, Robin Lopez. Pretty much past the single digits. This not even like starter level talent. So I'm going to figure out that he is presuming that Russell Westbrook is preferable in the grand scheme of things overall, like consensus. And I can't. Would I agree that Westbrook has had a better career than Derek? Yes, I would give you that. I will allow you to have that. And I know it's a time honored tradition. Derrick Rose against Russell Westbrook. They have such similar play styles that they kind of get compared. They came out the same year. It's two arguments, right? One argument is better career. Russell Westbrook does have a better career. That is pretty much, I would say, hard to disagree with. But the other argument is, would I take anybody else in this class over Derek? And honestly, no. I can't say that I would. I know that seems dumb based on what I just said, but I still feel that Derek, at his relative peak from from the jump, from 2009 to 2000 and I think at 14, the last year they went up against LeBron in the playoffs and almost got out of there. I would say I would take that Derek over the entirety of Russell's career. Now you have to keep in mind, Derek did not have an opportunity to work on his jump shot. He did not play for a very, relatively speaking, they were a well shooting team at the time. But the thing is, to be a good shooting team in 2009, 2010, you really only had to have like the two people that can shoot. They had like Kirk Heinrich and like Ben Gordon. You know, like they weren't really a amazing shooting team, and they didn't really prioritize the jump shot that much, in my opinion. Um, so Derek didn't get to work on his jumper, and he was kind of like people were situated into roles, and his role was to slash and playmaker off of slashing. So he didn't get to work on his jumper until like Minnesota. Like his jumper was broke for like the first 8 years of his career, 9 years of his career. So keep that in mind. He also played around. I know he played like, I think a year. I want to say 2 years of Vinny Del Negro before Tibbs got hired. And at that point, he was playing like 40 plus minutes a game. And even before Tibbs, they didn't have like a great backup. I saw the Boston Chicago series. They didn't have a good backup point guard behind Derek. So just keep that in mind as well. And Westbrook played in probably the most friendly situation you could possibly grow up in. Harden was a playmaker / facilitator already. Kevin Durant was Kevin Durant. They had a lot of veterans, a lot of good veterans. They had Perk, who was great. They had Roberson, who wasn't a vet necessarily, but he was, a glue guy. Ibaka was another glue guy. I mean, they had they had like Jeremy Lamb coming off the bench. They had an ideal situation around Westbrook. And he got to grow up in a pretty ideal, situation. I mean, that I would take Derrick Rose even if he had to redraft it. So going off of there, 2009, Blake Griffin. This one, I didn't even need to look up who else was drafted to get this one. This was pretty self-evident. In this one, you had Wardell Stephen Curry, and you had James Harden, who I just mentioned. Those are consensus better, obviously, than Blake Griffin. Not even close. However, you can make some arguments. Some other guys are up there. Drew Holiday, DeMar DeRozan. Those two also could be considered, at this stage, more valuable than Blake Griffin, who his injuries is pretty much... He actually has a game that's kind of... If he had it like 10 years ago, he would have been one of the better prospects of all time. But his game is very refined. He has a little bit back to the basket. He has a jump shot. His handle is better than it was. He's an even better playmaker than he was with Chris Paul. However, he's just at this point just so beat up every year that it's just not even worth the risk. And that's what makes Drew Holiday is almost an Iron Man at this point. I mean, he missed a couple games this season, but he's almost an Iron Man. DeRozan, I mean, you know what you got, DeRozan. And that's the skill that you just don't have with Blake, I suppose. And like I said, Steph and Harden, I mean, this one doesn't even really be debated. Now, this one I believe will be very contentious. So 2010, you had John Wall. Dude, John Wall. And taking John Wall number one overall, okay, that's cool. I mean, that's nothing. You really can't contend with that too much. I mean, he was that dude coming out of Kentucky. Let's just look at the second round real quick. I just want to see if anybody crazy got. Devin Ebanks. It's on Whiteside, kind of valuable pick out of the second round, but no. Lance Stevenson, okay, a couple of decent second round picks, but nothing crazy there either. So this one, this is actually like if you were going off of like potential and stuff like that and measurable concepts, actually some pretty decent prospects here. Greg Monroe, for the time he came out, obviously a very talented guy in his own facet. Gordon Hayward, one of the greatest all-time tournament runs. Paul George, one of those... I can't say one of the first because this archetype existed for a while, but in today's game, he is one of the, I guess, originators of the 3-4 can play their position and give you equal value. Playmaker, stretch 4 if you wanted to be that. He kind of grew a couple more inches, which allowed him to play the 4 more than he did. I think in Indiana he was more of a 2-3, but all the same, pretty ideal archetype in today's game, and he's one of the first. I want to say Ed Davis. I guess Ed Davis, he was pretty decent in college, wasn't he? But, anyway. Trevor Booker, good role player. Patrick Patterson, at one point, decent role player. Larry Sanders, a what-if story for about 6 years after he was drafted until it just didn't work out. In his own head a lot. Eric Bledsoe, another good player that came out of this. A lot of value as an 18th pick, I would imagine. Avery Bradley, at one point, another great pick. You could kind of go either way with defining him at this point. Jordan Crawford still doing Jordan Crawford things. And yeah, I mean, and this first round's a lot of value. It's not like today's game where you're going to have like a possible number one pick at like 13, like you would like Michael Porter Jr. a couple years back. But for the period of time it was in, I mean, there's a lot of great players here, but that's not what we're here for. So here, what was being said is that John Wall wasn't the best player out of this draft. And when I look at what I'm looking at here, the only possible option I could see, well, actually, initially I didn't scroll down far enough because I just didn't know who else in there other than Boogie. And I was like, okay, Boogie maybe, but Boogie at the same time didn't take the Kings anywhere whatsoever. So I was like, okay, it can't be Boogie, even though Boogie at his peak is a more valuable player than John Wall at his peak. But at the same time, it's like Boogie was so like the phrase empty stats pretty much like, at least as far as this decade goes, Kevin Love and Boogie are probably the biggest causers of that phrase being relevant. The empty stats is just their middle name, at least at their original locations. Then I scroll down and start Gordon and Paul George. And honestly, I can't say that I would take Gordon Hayward over John Wall. Just even like with how things have played out. Gordon has just become pretty much like your ideal sixth man. Like he's pretty much Jordan Crawford. Oh my god, I confused that with Jordan Clarkson. My bad. Anyway, Gordon Hayward's pretty much like Jordan Clarkson at Utah. That's his thing now. I mean, his athleticism has declined to quite a point. His defense is not very good. He cannot play the 4, which makes him lose a lot of value off of there. He kind of plays 2 more than 3 at this point. I think his athleticism isn't even like comparable to a 3 in today's game. His 3s are so athletic. I don't think he can really do that very well, but he still has like a place on a lot of teams. Don't get me wrong. He could probably even start for a few, but I definitely can't say he's more valuable than John Wall. However, when I saw Paul George, to me it's easy to make the distinction that Paul George took Indiana to the same highs that John Wall took Washington to. He did have more of an offensive role than John Wall for some of those runs. Because, I mean, even if you think about how good their defense was, when you get past, Danny Granger, I mean, it's kind of like what's George Hill, and then it's PG, And after that, I mean, you got like Louis Scola. I mean, you got David West. You know what? I guess I'll say John Wall took more of an offensive role for his team because he had a young Bradley Beal at that point that wasn't really like shooting like that. I think Ariza was there for a little minute. Maybe, I want to say maybe. But they didn't really have like many offensive players. I mean, like they got like Paul Pierce after Brooklyn, and it was like he started. I think he started on that team. That was like a real acquisition they got, and they were like hyped up about that. So that goes to show you how much offense they had. But even if he took more of an offensive role, I mean, Paul George was a clamp god initially. He was one of the best slashers in the league. His handle wasn't as good as it is now. Like he wasn't as valuable offensively, but he was still giving you like 20 plus in the playoffs and going toe to toe with LeBron James, fresh out of college. So I mean, that's impressive in his own right, I suppose. So I would say Paul George is more valuable, and I would probably take him if things play out the way they did. So we go on to 2011. 2011 was I'm looking at the sky right now. It's Kyrie, right? Yeah, Kyrie. Okay, so it was Kyrie. Can we please? Yeah. No. Oh my God. Jesus. All right, so Travis. I just need that mock. All right. So this is where you start getting like a lot of talent in the double digits. This won't be. I mean, this wouldn't be like 2013, for example. But it's there. So off rip, Kyrie, right? Very hard individual to oh Jesus, evaluate. So because Kyrie at his peak is one of the best scorers in the NBA, the best handle in the NBA ever, in my opinion. A great 3-point shot, okay defensively, and an average playmaker that suffers from tunnel vision time to time. At his absolute peak, that's what he is. You can say Boston, Kyrie, a little bit better playmaker, lost some of the athleticism. Okay, just trade-offs depending on how you look at it. Brooklyn, Kyrie look like maybe the best combination of some of his skills, but he got hurt way too often to even make a real evaluation of how he performed in Brooklyn. I guess he's still there, so I shouldn't use the past tense. But anyway, the point being is that Kyrie is hard to evaluate. But at the end of the day, Kyrie has a championship. He has an amazing finals run just without factoring LeBron or anything like that. He is good. He is good. He's one of the better number 2 options you could have in today's game. However, he happened to get drafted in the same draft as Klay Thompson, maybe until Kevin Durant relegated Steph Curry to Robin. Maybe the best Robin in today's game was Klay Thompson. Maybe. I'm not saying definitively, but maybe. Klay Thompson, 3-time champion. Probably the best jump shot form in today's game, or ever, really, in my opinion. Probably the second best shooter of all time. You could say maybe third or fourth, depending on how you look at Reggie Miller and Ray Allen. And a clutch god. No other way to put it. Just a clutch god. Okay, compare that to Kyrie, in terms of metrics or whatever, accolades. Klay has a little bit of a advantage, but he is a number 2. He has been number 2 his entire career. Kyrie has rotated in and out of being number 1. Even in Boston, I guess even like a true number 1 because of Tatum took the role for a period of time. I think it's the year after. I think Boston. He only stayed in Boston. He stayed in Boston for 2 years. The second year, I think Gordon came back. That was when they were just like imploding. Basically, I believe he stayed 2 years, and then they got booted out by they got booted out like the first round. I think against the second round against the Bucks. But all I have to say that Kyrie's record as number 1 isn't like sterling silver either, and as a number 2, he did what he did. But here's where it gets like a little bit tougher, right? Before saying the obvious. This is a very good class. I mean, Norris Cole was a good backup PG for a while. Kemba Walker, a lot of people compare him to Kyrie just a little bit. But I wouldn't go so far as to say the great value Kyrie because that's not completely accurate. But everything that Kemba does well, Kyrie does do better. Kyrie is a better scorer. He does have a better handle. His jump shot is better. He can create space better. He is a little bit bigger, I believe, than our boy Kemba is. It's just an unfortunate fact. I mean, Kemba is a great player that is, in terms of intangibles, I probably mess with him more than Kyrie at this stage. But at the same time, if you can make Kyrie work, you do have a better overall player. It kind of depends on your system. But, take those traps how you may. In the way Boston's set up now, by the way, I would probably take Kemba over Kyrie. Tatum is a number 1. Brown is a fringe. He can kind of be a number 1 in certain instances. Gordon is a little bit more comfortable in his role at this point. Marcus Smart, he is very valuable in terms of a 3-point shooter, playmaker. He's doing a lot of the Draymond things at this point. You can keep that in mind. Tristan Thompson, great role player, champion. Enes Kanter still works to this day. Not to say Kenneth Fareed. Let's keep on moving. Reggie Jackson, kind of on his way out, almost until the Clippers scooped him. But he's not like a bad player. He isn't as valuable as he used to be, and it's kind of his fault in that. But the two guys that are really, really still great, or I guess you can say three: Vucevic, Tobias Harris, Jimmy Butler. Those are all very excellent plug into your system, see how they work type of dudes. Vucevic probably wouldn't work quite as well if he wasn't like the number one option on the team. And I think Orlando knows that as well, so they try to figure out how to balance that, which is tough for them. Tobias, he shouldn't be your number three option, I think, unless like something is really wrong or you really just like have two really good number one, two options. The way that Philly uses him with so much offense flowing through him, so much shooting being put onto him, I don't think that's the best way to use him, but that's just me. Yimmy, I would say a top 15 dude, in my opinion. Sometimes on that cusp of top 10, but I would say at least top 15. Still works, even without. I would say Gimme is like one of the most unrefined players in the NBA. He came in without a jump shot. He came in without a great handle. He came in pretty much an amazing, no homo pause, whatever, physique. He came in with a lot of work ethic, and he came in with pretty decent driving or slashing rather. And he came with good defense, and he positioned that, which would probably get you like top 30, top 40 skill set into a number one option, depending on how your team is built. He probably wouldn't mind doing as number two, but number one. And just closing off, I mean, it's obvious. Kawhi, best pick in the class, best value in the class, best move made. I mean, they basically gave up Paul George for Kawhi, in a sense. And was that, good? I would say yes. Paul George is pretty much supposed to be like, at the time, the better version of Kawhi, but Kawhi has worked out well. He came to the optimal situation himself, but it's worked out for him. I would take him over Kyrie. I would say his career's been more valuable than Kyrie's. And Kawhi does find himself into some of the most ideal basketball situations one could. The Raptors have been fantastic without him, and they were great before him. The Clippers were able to. Look at the Clippers roster, man. I mean, the roster since last season, just going from last season and look up to the roster at this point, look how much talent they've had. They've had Tobias Harris, they've had Lou Will, they've had Patrick Beverly, they've had Shamet, they've had Reggie Jackson, they've had Marcus Morris, they've had such a wealth of talent. It's just amazing to think about, honestly. Shout out to Microsoft Balmer. Shout out to him. And Kawhi is the ice on the cake. Paul George, forgot about Paul George. So going from there, I don't know who else I would say. Like he obviously did this because it's a streak, but we could go through some of these other ones and see just a quick like speed round because I think we were going for quite a minute, 23 minutes. So let's just speed round real quick. So we just did 2012. Let's go 2011. All right, so Anthony Davis. This one should be pretty easy. MKG, Bradley Beal, Dame, Terrence Stott, Drummond, Royce White, Miles Plumlee, Fab Melo. Oh no, Fab Melo, Jerry Lin. Oh man, Fab Melo. Oh god, what a name. I've heard of his name several times before. I've never actually watched Fab Melo play, but every time I see that name, it always gets me. All right, so Anthony Davis obviously was the number one that deserved to be. Anthony Bennett. So he came out. There's a lot of, obviously Giannis is the one you would take in this one. But Dennis Scrotum, Rudy Gobert, CJ McCollum, even KCP. I think you can make that argument that he's better than Anthony Bennett. Steven Adams, Otto Porter got the bag. Ole Deep. You can make an argument for some of these second round dudes too. Mike Muscala. No, I'm just kidding. Glenn Rice, shout out to Glenn Rice, man. That's a TBT right there. Glenn Rice, Raul Neto. I think he still is in the league right now. Honestly, I think he's still in the league. James Ennis, Nate Walters. Shout out to Nate Walters. Isaiah Canane. I think it's just about anybody really. All right, so 2014. Let's go to there. 2014. Now that was Anthony Bennett. 2014 was Wiggs, I believe. Yeah, Wiggs. All right, so off rip, Joel. I'm taking Joel. Um, is Doug Bucket still like doing good in Chicago, or is he still in Chicago? I know, like, I'm pretty sure he's in Chicago still. I'm pretty sure. I know Chicago has a lot of young talent, but I think the Buckets are still in there. Okay, so where else are we looking at? So we got Wiggins, Embiid definitely, Aaron Gordon probably, Julius Randle probably, Yusuf Nurkic. His injury history kind of makes me not want to go with that. Zach LaVine definitely. Um, at the time, Timberwolves picked the wrong option with. Anyway, that's just hindsight. Marcus Smart definitely. Um, let's see. Yeah, I think that's about it. There's a few definitely better than Wiggins in my opinion on there. I think Wiggins is a massive bust as relative to his talent in my opinion. I think he could be way better. I mean, if he just got a jump shot up a little bit high, a little bit quicker. He's a good catch and shoot guy now, but he was like not good shooting in any facet back in the day. And he got like just more drives, more of a drive to be good. He just never had a drive. That's his biggest thing. Amazing athleticism though. So Karl Anthony Towns, this one might be very tough because Towns isn't a bad player whatsoever. He just hasn't achieved much, and like his, I'm not gonna talk bad about Towns, after everything that's happened to him recently, but he just hasn't like shown the best in terms of like being an alpha player. But his skill set as a center is like about incomparable to any other center in today's game. I mean, sometimes Joel can do what Towns does, but it's inconsistent. Like his choice, his decision making isn't as accelerated as Towns is. Sometimes Davis can do that, but he's a four anyway, and I don't think Anthony Davis is quite as good shooting from outside as Towns. I think Towns is on another level of shooting from outside than just about anybody. Sometimes Jokic is comparable, but it's iffy with him because of how slow his damn jump shot is. So going off what I just said there, I don't see any definitive I'm taking them over Cat. I just don't see it. The closest I can get is Booker, but Booker is like we're gonna get to a point where scoring isn't valued as much as it used to be. Because I mean, every guard, well, not to say every guard, but almost every team has at least one young guard that can give them like 40 a game just about these days. So it's not as valuable as it used to be. And Booker, like, he can give you some playmaker. He's trying to do better on defense. He has an edge to him that's very, good, obviously. But he's just not like he himself's another empty stats type of dude where it's like you just can't really value what he gives you too much because it's like, okay, you're about to hit the lottery once again. It's like for somebody who should like if scoring was what scoring used to be, what he's doing should get you to like an 7 seed, really. And you could maybe say Phoenix is the worst run-out organization in basketball. They're at least in the bottom 3. But at the same time, it's like, it's not like he's not playing like nobody, But I don't know. I would still say I'll take Karl Anthony Towns over him. One of my own hairs got in my mouth. I know not as possible. Okay, Ben Simmons. Tatum isn't in this draft. So that's what's going to make this a little bit easier. I think Tatum comes next year. So there's some decent talent in this draft, right? Decent. You got Brandon Ingram, who is at this very point, you can contend that Ingram is comparable to Simmons. Now, I'm not going to explain myself. I'm going to let the comments decide why I say that. But it can be argued. Brown You're not taking Brown over Simmons, but Brown, if you got your team established, if you already got your facilitator, playmaker, your point guard on the team, you're taking Brown over Simmons for that Nets guy. There's just so many things that you can't do with Simmons as far as off the ball. You can do it. It's there. He does it occasionally, but it's not asked of him enough, I think, by his head coach. I think Brett Brown needs to get way better in terms of using Simmons consistently, not just when Embiid is out or when Tobias is out or whatever. He's got to use him better, period. Just in any given situation. And some of it is also Simmons' drive to just be a better offensive player. Simmons gives you so much value from so many different directions, except the one thing he really needs, and it's just to be more aggressive. It's not shooting. It is shooting, but it's not shooting. He could be way better off the ball if he just shot better. Okay. But you also have to be able to look for your own shot when you're an off-the-ball point guard. And he does not do that very well because he doesn't want to shoot. But Simmons should be number one overall. I do believe still, even now, some of these great picks in this, even Pascal. I think you can make the argument Pascal had a better year this past year than Ben did. Matter of fact, you could probably say that for definitive fact that he did. But you could probably also make some excuses for Simmons' situation, how awful the team construction is with that team, how optimal even now the Raptors are built. I'm still taking Ben number one, but you can make the argument. There's a lot of good value in that draft. So we'll go from there. 2017. I believe this is the Tatum year. Listen, I'm sorry. I like Fultz. I think Fultz still has a lot of potential to be like a top 3 pick out of this, right? I think he still do that. Can he catch up to De'Aaron Fox? Yeah, probably. Can he catch up to Bam Adebayo? Yeah, probably. Luke Kennard, probably. Donovan Mitchell, maybe. Like this, he can still catch OG even. Like OG is a comeback story in and of itself. He can still be very valuable overall in the history of this class when we look back. He can be more valuable than Lauri Markkanen or Derek White or Kuzma. He can be. But it's going to take a lot of folks. Right now, I wouldn't even have him in the top 5. I'd take Tatum number 1 overall, obviously. Kuzma would probably be in the top 5. Bam would be like probably number 2 overall, I would say. Lauri would be like number 3. Fox would be 4. Like Kuzma might be 5. Well, I'll probably take Lonzo number. Because Lonzo's health is the only thing that holds him back. Lonzo's a transcendent playmaker. He has that in him, but it's just that health and his aggressiveness to score as well. I would probably put Lonzo at 5 from a talent perspective. I forgot about Donovan. Donovan would be number 2 behind Tatum. So Lonzo would be number 5 either, but a lot of talent in this class. You just can't have Markelle number 1, looking back, at least right now. Maybe time will tell, but right now it just doesn't work. 2018, 8 number 1 overall. Right now, obviously, Doncic. I would say Trae Young is equally as talented or equally as valuable as Doncic. Jaren Jackson even is better than Ayton, in my opinion, right now. I know playing with Suns can weigh down your value to such a degree, but you got to consider that. The Memphis, he was showing off from Memphis before Ja came in. So, hey. Wendell has been great. Colin Sexton has been great. McCall, I believe, also suffers from being on the Suns. Ayton, I don't watch a lot of Suns games, so it's kind of tough to evaluate exactly how good he is. But I definitely would say Doncic, Jaren, Trae, SGA. I'm taking them all over him. He'd be in tier 2 right now. I would definitely have him above guys like Shamet and probably in the same tier as like Sexton, I would say. Have him above Okogie. Have him above Huerter. Lonnie Walker may be better than him in a few years. That may be the Spurs' last good development story is Lonnie Walker. Some good value in the second round, too. I mean, Javon Carter, I believe Bruce Brown gets burned. Justin Jackson, I believe, also gets burned still. Jalen Brunson works for the Mavs currently. And by works, I mean he actually functions very well. Mitchell Robinson is a top 10 out of this draft. Svi, unfortunately, did not work out. I thought he could be very valuable for the way that team was built, the Lakers, but it just didn't happen. Isaac Bonga has finally went to. I think Bonga on the Wizards makes a lot of sense. I hope he can work with John Wall and get better as just being an overall player. But as of right now, I mean, Ayton, that just not even like top 3, top 4. This one, you know, I'm still taking Zion over number 1 overall. There's so many benefits of having Zion on your team that just don't speak to statistics or even record. I mean, the Pelicans or New Orleans is a bigger. I'm not saying they're bigger right now with basketball than they are with football. I'd be remiss to say that, but it's close. And this is a team that never appreciated their basketball. I live 3 hours from New Orleans. They have never appreciated basketball quite the same way they did as football. The closest they got is when Chris Paul was taking them to the semifinals. I would say Anthony Davis was huge, and Anthony Davis, when they got Boogie that year, definitely was going to be crazy if they can both had stayed healthy and made a real run. Yes, that maybe that season played out in entirety with those two playing together. Then maybe you have a situation where basketball is the biggest thing in that city, but I just think until Zion came, it wasn't really close for the past like 9-10 years, you know. So shout out to Zion for pretty much reviving the entire market. Also, some fantastic talent other than Zion in this class. Ja, great. RJ became great. Hunter, I believe, has been really good. Reddish has become incredible over the incredible, maybe a stretch, but he became very good over the last couple of weeks in that season. I haven't seen much of Culver to make a deduction on him. I've seen a couple of Garland games. I don't think him and Sexton work together, but let them do them. Hachimura has become like number 2, number 3 option, which is rough for somebody like him. I think he needed to be acclimated more to the league, but shout out to Roy Hachimura. Jackson tries his best. Don't think he quite has a role with that team yet. I don't think he's exactly what they need yet, but maybe he can figure some things out. Matisse Thybulle has been very valuable for the Sixers. See who else. No, I thought No had Nets based off the summer league, but I don't think anything came of that, unfortunately. Nasir Little has not done much for the Blazers, but they've been way more equal opportunity with how many struggles they've had this season, so maybe he can find his own footing there. Romeo Langford has been much. Tyler Hero, I think he got a really hot start to start the season out. I don't think he kind of lived up to that since then, after I think Jimmy got back well and all. But he's a very valuable player, PJ was kind of nice. Brandon Clark, I didn't get to watch much of Brandon Clark. Ty Jerome, I think he's like 13th, 14th man, something like that. This was just a fantastic draft. I mean, you got Nick Claxton at 31. I mean, like that's a very valuable pick. Nick Claxton is physically an amazing prospect to get. Carson Edwards was something I thought could really help Philly. Unfortunately, they didn't get to keep him, but he has a skill set that is, for his position, very nice. Let's see who else we got here. Jordan Bone was great in college. I hope he can figure it out on this level too, because he was a very steady hand for Tennessee. Taylor Horton Tucker, shout out to Taylor Horton Tucker. Tremont's the same thing as Jordan Bone, pretty much. He doesn't have the physical. I think that what hurts Tremont is his physical build. What hurts Jordan Bone is that he just isn't a very explosive player, but he's steady. Pascal, amazing, valuable pick. Just fantastic in terms of value. You really don't get much more valuable at a 41 pick. And since pretty much Draymond Green, that's just an amazing pick. But that is about it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Way longer than I thought it was going to be, but thank you for watching. If you watched it this far, peace.